select meeting ordered at 4 p.m. We go ahead and we're going to add and amend the agenda because we forgot to approve the agenda at the regular meeting. So we'll add that in, but we're going to first start kind of jump a little bit and ask everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll get into all of the team. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, we're going to, for those that are following along at home with the agenda item numbers, number one, of course, is call to order and pledge. Number two would be amendments and approval of agenda. So I'm going to make a motion to amend the agenda in the following manner. Okay. All right. Number three will be approval of the minutes for both the special meetings. Number four will be correspondence. So 3132 will be the special meeting minutes. Correspondence will be a letter from Ed Manson, a letter from Andy Yosef. Number five, public comments on agenda items. Number six will be tax refunds. 7 will be treasurer's report. Number 8, new business. Will be 8.1 will be appointments, motion, and we'll talk about motion accept. Okay. 8.2 is emerging management director and deputy. So the amendments to go deputy director and the deputy discussion. 8.3 is park and rec recommendation for the after school program director. 8.4 will be establish special board of selection meetings for the Swift House review and to review and approve agenda for the 18 January town meeting. 8.5 will be discussion on public use of Kent municipal facilities. And now we're 9. 9 is old business. 9.1 will be proposed revisions to the protection of farmers ordinance, formerly the right to farm. 9.2 is discussion and possible action on the FY 2025 capital plan budget. Number 10 will be selectmen reports. 11 is going to be discussion and possible action on the Park and Rec memorandum of understanding. Number 12 will be public comment, and 13 is adjournment. Any other amendments or changes to that?
No, the only one I was going to add was Swift House, and you've got that already, so that's fine.
Okay. All right. Second, someone?
I'll second.
Okay. All fair? Okay, great. All right. Now, approval of the minutes of November 28th special Board of Selectmen meeting and December 11th special Board of Selectmen meeting. Any changes or amendments to the minutes?
Well, I had, I do have one amendment that I wanted to ask for on the December 11th one. But it also speaks to sort of the philosophy of minutes, because minutes can be just emotions, or they can be a little bit of summary, which I really appreciate the summary because I think it makes it more of a helpful document. So under the Swift House needs assessment, Glenn and I had asked for a request for the contract to be sent to us.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
so I would love that to be just part of the record if we could. Right.
And we'll do that. Correct. There's just for there is no contract. I apologize. It is the RFP is the only contract. They have to accept the RFP, and that was it, which is to do a review. But I'll send that out to you, so you know exactly what it was that the.
Well, I have the RFP. I don't have.
There is no other.
I don't have what they proposed though. Did they send it?
They have a booklet. Have you seen? It's not really a proposal. It's the booklet of what they did previously for buildings similar.
Oh, yeah, around
so yeah, you can see that one. Okay, I have one upstairs. I have an extra one, so I can give you. But yeah, there is no actual contract since the RFP was a request for proposal for them to actually go in and review and give us back one before we would do any kind of further contract. But if you so that is clarification. I do apologize. You're right. You'd ask for clarification on that. I'm sorry, I missed that one.
So if there's no contract,
there is no contract on that. No, nothing more than the RFP. They were selected to fulfill the RFP. We'll restate that out though.
Okay. And the only other thing that I think is kind of important when we were discussing the capital plan, Rick explains that under the DPW that LoCIP must be included in the capital plan to be able to deal with the tree removal. And I just think that's kind of important so we know why there's this new part of the capital plan.
Okay.
To just include that as part of the discussion
Okay.
under the capital budget.
When we get to treasury, probably gonna ask for another little explanation, Wilson, from Barbara's perspective, because we did have that discussion this morning or yesterday. Okay. Any specific changes to the minutes beside that? We will, start reviewing more of the summary of the motion for each.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. I know it's time consuming, but it's helpful. And I think the 29 minutes were fine. So I make a motion to approve both sets of minutes with the amendment to the December 11th one relating to those.
Would you second?
I second that.
Second, okay. Any other discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, next is correspondence. Letter from Ed Matson. Ed Matson submitted a letter just as we went to press on the 27th that did not get into the last meeting, but his request is dated the 11/27 regarding emergency management director position and deputy emergency management director position. To the Kent Board of Selectmen, I'm writing to express my sincere interest in the emergency management director position and the deputy emergency management director position. With a strong background with Kent Volunteer Fire Department, coupled with extensive experience in local planning and coordination, community preparedness, exercise and training, responses to emergencies, and strategic operational hazard planning, I'm confident in my ability to contribute effectively to the town of Kent. I reviewed the requirements of the job opening and believe I am an excellent fit. And he proceeded to write out his key strengths: 43-year member of the Fire Department, past chief, past deputy emergency manager director under Ryan Hunt, FEMA Incident Command System, completion of the training for that, certified logistics management for disaster response, certified national TIM responder, experience Everbridge and VEOCI system user. Everbridge is a announcement of emergency management processes and procedures. It's why we're in that. And he said, should you have any questions or if there may be an assistance in this process, please do not hesitate to contact me. Thank you in advance for being my candidacy for these positions. So I expect to be Edward Matson. So, okay. And the next letter we have is from Andy Joseph, dated December 2023, regarding town and Kent budget for 2024-25, Selectmen's meeting December 27th. To first Selectman Martin Linmar, Selectman Lynn Worthington, and Glenn Sanchez. I'm requesting that a second resident trooper be added to the town's budget this coming year. 50 years ago, I was the only resident trooper in Kent and served for 7 years. I was required to live in Kent and be available. I also received phone calls at my home and office. The phone rang at both places. The town has grown considerably in the last 50 years. During the 1980s, when Maureen Brady was first selectman, we had 2 resident troopers. We need 7-day coverage, and a second trooper would provide same. A resident trooper does an excellent job with many criminal investigations that are time-consuming. Our town roads, Route 7, Route 341, and South Kent Road definitely need more speed enforcement. It is recommended there be 1 police officer for every 1,000 residents in a community. Crime, traffic, and security for our town must be a priority, so please address this important issue and add my request to the town budget this year. It's time to go from the 20th to the 21st century. Respectfully, Andy Joseph. Commission. Thank you. Put that into the record. Okay. Public comment on the agenda items. Again, explanation if you're not sure exactly what the public comment is at this point. It is on anything that's on the agenda. Do I hear or see anyone that cares to comment? Anyone playing at home who cares to comment on the agenda? Yeah, we'll talk about it. Really talk about the capital plan. We'll get into the capital plan. But if they have a comment on, on the agenda item
of the capital plan.
Well, it's an agenda item, but if we want to talk to the specific, it'll come up in the end. So if you have comments, if you want to talk generally about, you want to give a statement for 2 minutes on the capital plan, you're welcome to. Any specifics that we have back and forth, we will not engage with you. That's what it says here. We'll listen to you for 2 minutes, and then we'll deal with it at another time. But we're going to give you time, certainly during the capital plan, to should ask questions or provide anything else. But if you'd like to comment anything.
That's all, I just wanted clarification. Thanks.
Sure.
Thanks, Mark. Sure. I want to make sure we're going at the appropriate time that you would want.
Yeah, you can just, I mean, comment generally, but if you want to be specific, so that we can't engage. The whole point with public correspondence again, or agenda, excuse me, correspondence on the, or comment on the agenda, excuse me, is to, if there's specific something on there and you want to make a statement on it, even if you're not involved with that area, you want to talk about emergency management, you talk about after-school program, you can make an adjustment to that, and we'll listen to you, and then we'll each get a clarification question, then we'll move on to that next, but we're going to change. And then at the end, you can talk about anything, about the weather, my car, what you're going to get for my birthday, you know.
Just how I run the fire meeting, what I'm doing. I like that.
Oh, look at Robert's head something. Okay, any comments on the agenda then? Specific comments? Okay, great. Moving along, thank you. Tax refunds. We have a series of tax refunds. Barb, are you on here?
Yes,
Yes, if you want to make any comment about regarding the tax refund?
do I? I don't think I do. Isn't Debbie there? She's the one
Oh,
that's.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Debbie, where'd you go? Debbie was here. She's not here. She's not here. Okay. I'm sorry. That's Debbie. All right, we have tax refunds that have been submitted. We have a series of 7 tax refunds totaling $1,646.94. Individuals, Michael Groves, we have leasing on the Hyundai, excuse me, 2 Hyundai lease. Roberta Mamoli for $56. VW credit leasing. Michaela Groves, $277.83, and a Toyota lease trust refund. Totals $1,646. The corresponding information was in the packet.
Yeah.
Get a chance to look at it. So, any
So
questions?
I make a motion that we approve the tax refunds as submitted.
Second.
Aye.
All right, great, thank you. Very good. Okay, next one, we're looking on the treasury report, right? That's what I'm looking at. Sorry. Would you like to now talk about the treasurer information? Sure.
Well, I submitted my report yesterday afternoon. It's pretty much my standard report. There's nothing really of any outliers on there that really need to be brought to your attention. But if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I did just have one. I noticed on the budgeted KCS tuition, we have 117.1% of
Yep.
tuition. How does that come about?
Mostly because the budget is prepared at such an early point in the year. It's before they have all the answers back from the potential people who will be sending their children. So at the time the budget is prepared, we go with the information that we have. So it appears that there were additional children signed up from out of town to attend Kent Center School after the budget was passed.
Okay. Budget tuition.
That was not in the meeting folder. I didn't see it.
Oh, she sent it yesterday. Okay.
You got it? Did you send it to us?
I think so, yes. Look at it.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was the only thing I really had. Budget, I think, what the budget, we budgeted more or less than the tuition students. So.
Barbara, are you concerned about the EMS staffing line?
Well, that's why it's on there. That's the same information that I reported the month prior. It's going to go over budget. That was sort of expected because during the budget process of last year for this fiscal year, the fire department asked for a certain dollar amount and it wasn't granted. So we do expect in the January meeting to have to go back to the taxpayers for an additional appropriation.
Okay. I hadn't heard that, thanks. I mean, I could tell what the red meant.
I get that a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's significant, but it's coming. Okay, any other comments or thoughts on the treasurer's report? We can motion to accept it as submitted. Motion to accept the treasurer's report. Second that. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you. All right, new business, 8.1, appointment to accept the appointments made or and put in the agenda. There's again about 7 appointments. We can discuss them one at a time, or we can approve them all at once if there's any concern about any of the appointments. We have Sewer Commission, Rick Osborne, to 2027, Zoning Board of Appeals, alternate is Nick Downs. It'll be to next year, or to 2025, excuse me. Conservation Commission, alternate is Gene Speck with 1 year to me, till next year, next December 2024. HRRA, Marty Lindmeyer, that's the Resource Recovery group, that's our transfer station stuff. Pretty interesting. 3 years, whatever I've got left. Inland Wetlands Commission, Ken Johnson, 5 years. Inland Wetlands Commission, alternate Anthony Palumbo, 3 years. And Inland Wetlands Commission, alternate Jeff Beluga, existing at 3 years to the 25th.
I make a motion that we appoint all these people on the list.
Okay. As listed. Second. Okay. Any more discussion? No. All in favor? Aye. Great. Thank you. Thank you again for people who always volunteer here in town, spend their time doing it. Really appreciate it very much. Okay, 8.2 is Emergency Management Director and Deputy. This is something we've been obviously working on for a while. It's always been something that's been of interest to us. When I got here, of course, my first weekend, I think, or second weekend, we had one of the many storms that we had. And Eric Epstein, Eric Epstein, who is our deputy, currently the only one serving in the position, stepped up, and he's been doing an excellent job. But he has requested that he eventually be phased out to do that. So we did put out information. We have Ed's letter requesting a consideration for deputy or director for the emergency management program. When I did some research on how we actually did it, actually, according to the state, as I outlined it on the Dennis and all that, it's the CEO or the chief executive of the town to appoint and to approve, to interview, and so on. So I have done that in the last month, but I thought it was important to bring that to the board, also to understand what it is we're looking to do with the two individuals. So I do have 2 individuals that I have interviewed in the past couple weeks, and in discussion with others, including Eric, I'm going to make the recommendation that the board endorse the appointment of 2 individuals, one for the director and one for the deputy. Right now.
But Meredith, how did you advertise the fact that we had this opening?
This opening's been on, it's been on for, whatever, it's been on the book since there was openings for Ed knew about it, applied for it. This other gentleman had heard about it, he was interested about it, so I'm assuming that it came out of last year's appointments when there's no one else here in the filling position. So, talking to some folks in the fire department, other people down here. I'm talking to Andrew about the emergency management system, who do we have set up to run it, who is on the emergency management team, which includes the fire chief, emergency management director, deputy director, myself, public works, and so on. So I knew the positions were empty, so we need to find somebody that we can rely on to get the training, make sure they're qualified, and so on. So there's one of the ones that we look around and said that we need to fill. So.
I just wondered if we wanted, even though it's an unpaid position, if we wanted to treat it like it's we're trying to sort of standardize procedures of like a minimum of 2 weeks on the town website advertising what the job is and have. I mean, I know you have the authority to appoint the person.
Well, I went back and looked at the minutes of the meetings that certified these, and I think it's in September of 22 to do that. And there wasn't any recommendation for any large hiring process to do that. So
I know, but we have that ability to do that now.
We do, unfortunately, with Eric's request to move along. I did not want to leave these 2 empty for too long. We're getting into the winter time where we tend to use our emergency management program. We have twice in the time that I've been here. So I see that as a need now. we do have another open, we'll have another opening if we care to look and change that policy. I mean, I consider that, or if we wanted to do more of that. I think it's important that we look inside the community to do that, like we do for any of our other major boards and commissions and so on. We don't always advertise that.
We should. We
Every
always should.
commission, for every board and commission position.
Yes, we should. How are people gonna know?
Even for volunteers.
It should go out in an email from you saying, this is what's going on, we've got an opening here. I think we need to do, communication is so key to communicate with our residents and communicate with, particularly for a volunteer position. I think it's important that we look like we're being transparent. I mean, it's like not a select group that can just apply for these kinds of things.
Well,
It's people who are qualified.
yeah, well, that's the whole thing. People are qualified too. I mean, yes, I agree with you. And we do need to keep this as transparent and open as possible. I look at it, weighing that a little bit with the need to actually bring people in, that we can get trained and start getting into the process to get set up with the MS and get hooked up into the program and all that kind of stuff to fill the emptiness out. Yeah, I mean, I'm not adverse to looking to put out more information on it. I certainly can do that. But I think right now I do have what I think are two pretty strong characters. I mean, this is a lot of my background. Maybe that's where I kind of stood from too. I mean, I've done emergency management programs and Homeland Security stuff for 40 years. So taking the two job descriptions and looking around to see who we had available to do that, I think that, and looking and talking to people again about who I thought could fill the position and would work with us, I kind of looked at it that way. But yeah, okay. What do you think?
Having been on board and saying for a while that we should advertise for at least 2 weeks, I would be more comfortable knowing that we did that. There may be more people out there who don't know that it was open. There may be some people who are reluctant to come, not knowing what Eric's position was. So just from my point of view, it would be, again, I would feel more comfortable if we got it out there to everybody.
Okay.
And then it's a very important position. And then we see who's interested. And if it's these two only, then there we go. But I'd like to give it maybe 2 more weeks.
Right, I don't think we're going to die for 2 more weeks. I mean, I hope not. All right.
May I ask Eric Epstein, so what is his position? He's still deputy currently?
He is still deputy. He said he would stay along until we get the 2 other individuals. He kind of wants to, I think, ease out of it a little bit. He's been, we're still going through some medical issues and, we're just follow on, nothing of major issues. He's been really good helping out and stuff, but I think I think Mary, his wife, would like to have him back home a little bit more on weekends and nights. But, okay, I'll take that, and we'll do that. We'll publish it after tonight. I'll push this on our website and let people know. I'm going to open up at you, since you did have the letter in here for that. Issue with a 2-week wait.
I chuckled because it actually, I went back and it was actually posted in 2019. It started showing on the agendas for the Selectmen committee. I guess it's been off and off all the way back then because I put it up today.
Right, and that's a top at 22 to actually finalize position description and so on. So, but yeah, okay. All right, we'll do that. We'll put it out in 2 weeks. I'm hoping to pray for snow, hopefully. But we do have personnel that have been already stepping up for the program, so
That's encouraging.
Yeah, that's very good.
It's very good.
We're looking most at the fire department and in Rec 2. So, okay, all right, we'll hold off on any specific announcements, anything like that for 14th. Okay. Need a recommendation for the after-school program director. So.
Okay, the after-school program director, unfortunately, does not have a job description. I did my due diligence to try and find one. We looked in the electronic files that exist, we looked in the hard copy files. I did find a document called Director Duties. So I would propose that we hire Rebecca Thompson as the after-school program director based on this document with the duties, and that the Park and Rec Commission come back to the board with a proper job description, and then have us approve it at that point. My understanding is from talking to Jared, that Rebecca's been working as a counselor, and she would like to be the director, and he was the one sort of overseeing her in that role. So we really need a director. And I had also found a contract, but I talked to the former chairman, Lynn Harrington, today, and she really didn't remember a contract actually being brought up to the commission. So that might have been something that Leslie just did on her own. It is not something that Jared has done in recent years.
But I read the same thing, so, but that was like a contract between the ASP and then the director of how they oversaw, correct? Isn't that more?
Exactly,
My
yeah.
board and the
Yeah.
director, okay.
So I would
What-
say we don't deal with a contract. We just deal with the director duties, and then, like I said, we'll come back to the board with a proper job description.
Yeah. The duties pretty much outline, I think, what the job description would entail, taking care of the kids and authorities and so on, and also responsibilities. The only question I had is I know Rebecca was interviewed and so on. I assume she has the first aid, and I mean, I wouldn't hire her with the first aid, CPR, and all that, AED, the general things you have when you deal with kids in the school, I suppose. Right. So, and no issue with the school itself, with any other questions they have about her or the position. I guess we'll find out more interaction, because they always want to, I know talking to principals sometimes, want to know what my responsibilities since they're in her building, the building she manages, so. But there's never an issue with that, they've not brought up anything.
To my knowledge, nothing has been brought up to the commission recently, so.
So, having just said what I just said, we're considering a hire for someone without a job description. That wasn't posted for 2 weeks anywhere.
Right.
So I have a big problem with this. And maybe that's on me. I should have been looking closer at the commission. But I think also that KCS begins, like school begins January 3rd in a week's time. So we kind of need someone.
And we don't have anybody
In a week's
to
time.
be the manager of that, because we will not have an official director.
Yeah, correct. So I'm going back to my hiring policy that I wrote a while ago, that I think is official, but I'll read it again. A job description posted on the town of Kent website for at least 2 weeks is required before boards and commissions may hire new employees. Exceptions may be made for emergency hires at the discretion of the first selectman. Giving the first selectman and Dormouse and out. So I would say, in this case, I will consider this hire, even though a few things weren't done.
Right.
Just because we're in such time constraints. And there's been so much change in the Park and Rec.
I think Park and Rec needs to do a better job. I will say that they need to do a better job with the details on things. And so I can assure you guys that we will, if this happens again, that we have to hire an after-school program director, it will be advertised for 2 weeks.
And I believe it.
Right, and we're all, all on that one. We're all getting ourselves together here, and I think we're in the right direction. So do we want to do an interim then, hire until we see a job description and to make sure that Rebecca has no issue with that, or do you want to just go ahead and do?
I did share this with Jared, and he verbally told her what the job, he's gone over the job with her. So I don't think it's going to be a problem for her. So I would rather just hire her as a director, because the commission has juggling a lot right now without a director, so.
Because they're juggling a lot.
Yeah.
Because we're under time constraints. Because school's beginning in January.
Yeah.
I'm okay with this.
Me too, actually, to make sure we're good. Okay, we have a motion. I'll make a motion to accept Rebecca as the after-school program director for Kent Park and Rec. Interim. Hired her, so hired her, yeah, sorry. Second. Okay. Any more discussion? Okay.
As long as moving forward.
Right, yes, yeah, exactly, that noted all, that we should always looking for all boards, commissions, including the first selectman side, to make sure that the advertisements are out there within a 2-week program and open up to everyone, regardless of who's going to be done.
Marty,
Yes.
your motion needs to include an effective date and a dollar amount.
Okay, thanks, Ray.
Effective date would be January 3rd, and the dollar amount would be $20 an hour.
You good, Joyce? You think?
Or should we do it, is that too late? Or should, I mean, I was just thinking that's the day that school starts, that's the next time there'll be
Well, that's what
after
you
school.
change. Yeah, that's what you actually work on.
Yeah,
Is there any reason to bring her in early for anything? Holiday. I'm not sure you're going to be able to do anything.
I know.
Let's do it on the 3rd then, for effective date of the 3rd. At $20 an hour. Okay. Joyce, did you get that?
I did, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Joyce.
We have a motion then to appoint Rebecca, to hire Rebecca as the after-school program director for Park and Rec, effective January 3rd at $20 per hour. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed, none, seeing none, passed. Good with that, Joyce?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, great. Okay. We're going now to 8.4, establish special board of selection meetings for Swift House review and agenda for the 18 January town meeting. Mostly what we're trying to do now is to establish the time of the special meeting, which we're doing that now. According to our laws and ordinances, we have to have 5 days prior to the 18th, the town meeting, to have this meeting held. We were looking potentially at the 10th, Wednesday, the 10th of January, which would give us that appropriate time. I think the 11th also would give us the appropriate time. Anything after that, obviously, we could do it the 9th or the 8th or whatever, but so somewhere on the week of the 8th of January. We have it.
What time of day?
It can be, it's special meetings, I think, can be whenever they need to be to handle the issue at hand. So if it's earlier in the morning, I always like to have it where people can, 10, but in the afternoon, whenever it does, because we're now in the school work schedule, there may be times when you be teaching and so on. So it's really.
I could easily do 4 o'clock on the 11th.
I could do that.
Joyce checking the, whatever schedule you have. On the 11th at 4 o'clock, is there any other thing my calendar is too small to look at it here. Joyce, is there any issue with the 4 o'clock on the 11th?
There's somebody in the meeting room at 6.
Someone in the meeting room at 6 o'clock. Okay, but before we should be done by 4 o'clock.
I can start 3:30 if you want. I can go earlier.
Try 3:30?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do 3:30. That should give us time.
Fine.
Gives us 2 hours and.
So at this meeting, we're talking about the Swift House?
The Swift House, update Swift House, yes. Anything with the architect, Zan should be back. He requested that. We're happy to do that.
And Zane-
See what we're going on. Yeah, Zan, we will invite her.
Okay, great.
And anyone else from the, that task force.
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Do you think we might also be talking about the Cemetery Association, or is that too much?
I think we wait till the regular meeting.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, let's keep this.
They wanted us to move forward.
Well, I mean, yeah, we need to, again, yeah.
11, 18, 24th. So 24th would be a time to talk about cemetery.
Correct. So that's only a week after the 18th. But I think at that point, I want to look at development of a hiring position, job description specific to it. I see the ordinance and kind of duties I haven't seen an actual job description.
Well, there is quite a bit of
Oh, yeah.
discussion needed. I mean, there's a lot of things that Randy's indicating you need to resolve. Looking through his notes.
Right.
That's why I was hoping we could,
Well, yeah.
it might take more than a meeting.
It might. Well,
I don't know, it's just.
we might,
something to
okay,
consider.
what we might do is do a special meeting with him to discuss the specifics of it beforehand, and then have a special meeting in public. I think we could, well, we could have it obviously open. I don't know the client, I have to ask him about the legality of the client, before the client relationship to that, and have to be able to cover any more questions that aren't ready for public, if it's still in discussion immediately. I'll find out from that. If we can do that, then if that's, we need to, we'll go grab him and do it. We can do it Zoom. We've done that before. Don't like it, but we can do it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we'll be prepared for the special meeting, or the regular meeting. I like the regular meeting because then we can adjust things a little bit. So we can
Yes.
Yeah,
scale them down a little bit. Okay, all right. Okay.
Can I ask, I don't know if it's appropriate, so the Swift House, has there been any more conversation with Silver Petrelli at all?
They did supposedly send a gentleman up to look at it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, we haven't heard anything back. We heard that, and we don't have anything back. I asked Joyce if she'd heard anything from them. They have not yet. Could be
Okay.
a holiday, but they sent a young man, or a young architect. So
Okay, so there's movement on their side.
there is something to look at.
In the
Yeah,
house, actually.
Yeah,
Okay.
We'll have, again, lay all that out, what they've said, what they're requesting of us, and so on. I think that's, a good way to go forward.
Great.
Too.
Okay.
So again, and that's when we do, kind of a special like that, like to keep our discussion. So if we have to go a little bit longer, we're not struggling to throw something else on the agenda.
Okay, that's great.
Okay.
That's great.
Yeah, so we'll get more information from that. So, okay, so 11, the agenda, or the special meeting will be the 11th of January at 3:30. Okay, all right, 8 point, we did make a motion on that, right? Yeah. Can we make a motion on that? Or do we need to make a motion on that? I don't think.
No, you don't need to make a motion just to warn.
I don't think so, just a warning, okay. All right, next is 8.5, discussion of public use of Kent municipal facilities. That's been a question that I'll address this to everyone. The town of Kent has always been welcoming to all kinds of organization groups that do all kinds of great things in town. One of the questions I think probably coming out of COVID is just what reliability and, use of facilities can people do, and what is our legal responsibility for people that come in and out of our buildings and use it and so on. So I did call the insurance company and asked them to explain that all to me. Their explanation was pretty simple. We have the authority under our current insurance policy to allow any group general use, if they're from Kent, it can either be sponsored by an organization or an individual of Kent that registers with us, who is a voting or resident of Kent, considered a resident of Kent, can use the facility if we agree to that, if we have a policy in place. So things such as the quilters, so the issue of the quilters wanting to use the large meeting room here to lay things out, it was a question, and it had been kind of denied unless they had their own insurance. Well, there's absolutely no need for any of these small groups to have their own insurance. However, using the community house for a wedding, reception, so on, where alcohol or other parties or other folks from outside our town, a larger, celebration party, whatever, would require that because of the, potential issues that could be for people traveling here and going back and forth and so on, who are not part of the town. So that we would continue. So what we're planning to do, and I think our discussion today is really going to be, we would want to open up any municipal facility that we have in town for any group. And what we need to do is then write a policy for how we would do that. I've been looking at a couple from Massachusetts and so on. Some are bigger communities than we are, and they get much more involved than we need to. But what I'd like to do is then go ahead and I can, either appoint us a committee of the whole or put myself as a committee to organize the write-up of a policy and then submit it to us. I'd like to have it done by the regular meeting in January. I think we can pull it together enough. I'll run it by the Randy as well as the insurance people and get their sign off. So, I just never understood why we couldn't. And I think most of us agree with it, that why can't, if you're a resident of Kent, be able to use a meeting facility upstairs here, a room, heck, you can use my office if you need to, just you have to clean it up and all that stuff, that's all I ask. Leave some snacks behind. But yeah, things like that, why not? I mean, I think we've all grown up doing that. And so without having to cause a lot of insurance issues.
So the insurance company said that if it's primarily here in town, people in town.
Yeah, if the point of contact is a person from town, and quote, there's not like somebody could be coming in from wherever, Grand Junction, Colorado, and they want to help out with the thing, as long as they're sponsored by it. No alcohol involved, no other abnormal, meeting things. They just want to use the room to do their function, not to use the room for something else, like to host a big party, which is decorating and all that stuff. That's a different use, and those are different things. So they could, but that's what our policy was. Most of the policies I've read kind of have that distinction when they start getting into large group, large use. Some have a number under 15 or 20 or whatever. I don't know in our town if we need that specifically. The insurance, our insurance agent did not indicate that that was the case. It was mostly the intent of the use itself was a big thing from them. But anyway, we can keep that going. And really proposing generally would be to go through, the Selectmen's admin assistant office up there to, she does, like Joyce does with the community house manages it and so on. So we have a calendar, people know it's available and so on. And we can go ahead and use it, use it place.
I think it makes total sense, and I appreciate you talking to the insurance.
Yeah, just, gotcha.
Caucuses start first week in January, so if you could.
First of January?
Yeah. So is that possible?
Is there a window of time when they have to happen?
Yeah.
I don't, since we don't have a specific policy, I think we can do a general idea. I mean, that's the kind of thing the insurance had not an issue with.
Yeah.
They're coming in to do a specific meeting issue, not to use it for, you're not celebrating party or anything, right? You're not gonna have balloons.
No.
Go there, bonfire, or anything. Okay, just check.
Nobody dressed up as a clown, no.
That's good to know.
I mean, as an interim, John, we could just make a motion saying
That's what I'm-
that the political parties can hold their caucuses in
Yes,
January.
that's what I'm saying, yeah, something like that. We could do
But it's
that.
expensive. I mean, we don't have a lot of money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And it shouldn't even be, it shouldn't be an issue of the money. Is the town ready to support its people? And I think that we certainly all agree with that. It's just how, make sure the policy is such that we know exactly what we have to, what we can allow and what we have to require insurance for. And that's kind of the distinction. But yeah, so you want to make that motion? No?
Sure, I'll make a motion saying that the local town committees in Kent have the ability to hold their caucuses in January.
I second that motion. Did you hear that, Joyce?
I did.
Great. Any more discussion on that specific motion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Great, okay, thank you. And just to finish up
Thank you for letting us
that.
know.
No, it's important. I mean.
No, it is,
It's
and that's why we wanted to bring this, yeah.
It's a good point, Mark.
We've been looking at it, Lynn wants, so let's get this on the agenda, I can read. Yeah, I know you're in favor of that too, so, until we all can go to the library and hang out there.
I'd love to know what other towns do with this.
They do, that's-
Do they have the same insurance company as we have? Do they have to?
Some of them have ordinances, I did a quick search, some have ordinances, some have policies, so
Right,
it's
exactly.
really up to each town to figure out how they want to handle it.
Yeah, and we're small enough to have policy, and it's, they're, we'll have to look at exactly, I mean, like, I don't know, I can't think of a ridiculous group that would want to come in and use something that would subject the facilities to any kind of misuse or whatever. I don't think that's going to happen, so.
Well, thank you for looking into this.
Yeah, no problem.
This is an important thing.
And I will continue to do that, and we'll come up with some great policy issues to look at, and we'll do that before the end of our January regular meeting. I think it's time we need to actually pull that together.
Thanks.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, all right, old business. This proposed revisions to the protection of farmers ordinance, formerly the right to farm. Is Connie Mandis online anywhere? Or anyone from the Conservation Commission that would talk? I tried to go back and find the original one. I found what had been, which is the one we have, which is what the commission and the lawyers have now pulled together. To be honest with you, I don't know the distinction. I couldn't go back. Do you ever find it? Go back?
They went through a lot.
I know they did. And this is what they came up with. This is what the lawyer has proved so far, so.
Connie spoke to me on Friday. I actually saw her in person, and she is away. And she was concerned that she wasn't sure she could actually, at that point, I thought we were having a 6:30 meeting, so she said she couldn't make that. And I did text her today, but she probably has a conflict. So she really would like us to talk about this at another meeting.
All right. This is one that's very specific that maybe we can put at the special meeting. I just think the cemetery is a little bit too much
Too complicated.
right now. But, so, all right, so we will include this one in the agenda for the special, so we can get that done. I know they worked at it, and Randy did mention that. Yeah, he did, but I couldn't go back and find all the different things that they had changed to be able to speak to it. So, okay, so we'll postpone that. Okay. All right.
Do you think it's possible that we might actually be able to put that on the annual town meeting agenda as well, depending on
This
how our discussion goes?
one?
Yeah. I just
Yeah,
hope not to
yeah,
have
because-
so many town meetings.
No, I agree. If we can improve this, yeah, and that's the special meeting has to do the agenda as well for the town meeting, so you have to get it approved. And
Okay.
we'll sort of understand, makes sense. Good point. Okay. All right, old business, number 9 now. 9.1 is proposed revision, I'll read that. Sorry, discussion possible. Discussion possible action on our FY 25 capital plan budget. Okay. And just for clarification, and I should have done this at the beginning, but I'm going to jump in right now, since we can amend as we go. We're in the process of, as we discussed, it, Park and Rec has a meeting scheduled for 5:30. And if we're still in the middle of capital plan, I will ask for a recess right as close to 5:30 as we can. And recess is not, we're not going to end the meeting, we're just going to recess on it so Park and Rec can meet. Pause it, yeah, put pause. Yeah, and then so we can come back and have that discussion on number 11, which is down the line. If we finish the capital plan, our input at least before then, the 2 selectmen reports and whatever, we'll pause at that point and then let Park and Rec do their thing. But they're not scheduled to be on at 5:30. Anyway. Okay. Gotta be better glasses. Here we go. Barbara, do you want to do a quick update on what we came up with on the numbers at the end of our last meeting? Can you do
Okay,
that?
so I'm trying to share it so that you can
Yeah.
actually see the numbers this time. Can you see them?
Yes.
Some numbers, yeah.
Technology.
So once the changes were made after the discussion from your last meeting, these are the bottom line numbers right here. So the total capital appropriation for fiscal year 25 is going to be $1,115,001. Excuse me, that's the total capital projects for that year. The appropriation is this down here in the blue. 1,733,235. So each one of these blue squares represents the appropriation for that particular year. And then this row here is the total amount of the projects for that particular year. Within my own workbook, I have notes on the different cells that give information as to when things were moved around. It's easier to not show all the notes because otherwise the sheet itself becomes very, very busy. You did make some modifications to the Swift House. You took 175,000 out of that in fiscal year 29 and moved it out a year. Rick made some modifications on his, but I don't think the notes show up here on this side. But anyway, you had started off with a much higher figure and you brought it down to under 3 million for fiscal year 29. And that's where you ended it.
So just for everyone again, this is for all those people that are here for discussion on the capital plan. We looked at and endorsed the guidelines that the Board of Finance had put out. You guys familiar with that? I don't know if you had seen that or whatever, which really, in a nutshell, had a target, and it's guidelines again. So it's a target of about 15%, no more than 15% of our actual budget would be in the would be the number that we'd look at as far as our capital plan to go. So that's kind of the baseline what we worked off of. Okay? The question and why we invited the fire department, police department, fire department here was to have you guys just explain to us again a little bit about how you added your capital plan together, what you're looking to do, what your apparatus and so on are looking to do, and then any questions that we had specific to that.
And we also invited the park and rec.
Right, well, I was gonna get to them later, yeah, so that's you and John, I guess, and Rufus, yeah. So, but I was gonna give the fire department a shot first.
I had in particular was concerned that we didn't have a lot of understanding of what Rescue 8 really meant
Yeah, whatever you, yeah.
and what the request was all about.
You can holler enough back there, we're good. Just like to make a stand, they don't like to see you.
Thank you for having us come and re-educate or new education as things come out, as Lynn had reached out and so forth. And what you can see that there's a large number for the 5th year out for the Rescue 8 replacement. And so I think, Lynn, from being your reporting days, reporter days, you followed these over the years and so forth, and from last year, and Marty, just to your general thing about, costs of things going up, and it's kind of hard to guess and where they are and so forth, make an educated guess. And for me, over the last couple years, the costs of the increases, I never would have guessed they'd have gone up like they did in certain areas. I mean, I cannot believe it. I asked reasons why and so forth and don't get a decent answer or whatever it is, you know what I'm saying, in this particular case. So I can't help you there about forecasting completely and why numbers have gone up as dramatically as they have. Have informal conversations with Rick or, other people about, equipment costs, what they're doing in the towns, and obviously at chiefs meetings, fire chief meetings, other things and so forth, and it's across the board. And what was also pretty unheartening to hear this past year, anyway, year and a half, was the lengthy time delay that was coming in for people ordering fire trucks and in that particular case, other departments. It wasn't just huge cost increase, but it was a huge time delay in getting things. And I think all of us understood during COVID, we understood there was a problem with just workers, problem with everybody's own personal safety or concerns, unknowns, all the other things that were going on, and then just supply, the chain for that, was a problem or a concern. So that was a few years ago. So I don't know, what's on that side, but I'm not an economist, so not for me. But specifically with Rescue 8, two big factors here. One we were just talking about is unknown costs of what that may be. But secondly is we are looking at, this has not been finally adopted by the department. So I want to make sure that is clear. But what we are looking at, what I as chief of department had directed a committee to do, one of the abilities that I have as chief is to appoint committees to help the department and appoint that and so forth. So I had done that a few years ago. Our president, John Russell, also has that authority under our constitutional bylaws. And tonight you can see a lot of the committee members are here in the background. I thought that was important. We also have other officers of the department here, to be able to be here for any questions or wherever it is. But Gary Hawk, who you all know, Assistant Fire Chief, and also is the committee chair of the Truck Replacement Committee. They have been focusing very diligently and hard over the last couple of years on our engine one replacement. That's what's been fully funded and crossed over. And they ran into, I should say that Gary and I talked about this a few years ago as it was getting closer. The two situations I just brought up, the cost increases and the idea of the delay and so forth, really again surfaced this last year with speaking with other chiefs and other departments. So one of the things that I added to this committee for the engine one replacement was the upcoming Rescue 8. So I said, look, let's look at this as a whole. There's a lot of different technology changes, a lot of different functional changes that are out there, and changes specifically to our staffing, which you know about. Barbara talked about earlier with EMS, and I know you have a general knowledge of it and so forth, but that's just one thing that's out there. Staffing overall, volunteers is hard. You commented on thanking all the volunteers earlier, and so forth, and for town committees and everything. So it is affecting us. You've heard it and so forth, but I'm here to tell you it does affect us. We also have been very fortunate in the last year and a half. We've had a very nice increase in volunteers joining the department. Some of them even stepped up and have joined, are sitting in on the EMS or the staffing committee that we have moving forward. Some of them are here on the truck committee, taking an active role, and people taking EMS, firefighter classes, and so forth. So we've been very fortunate in that area, but overall, still numbers are a concern and a problem. We're trying to look to the future. So part of that is where when we had them look at, or I asked the committee to look at the ability of Rescue 8 to be a standalone rescue, or whether it would have other functions, and the same thing having to do with Engine 1's replacement, whether that would be a true engine pumper tanker versus just a tanker versus a tanker pumper operation and so forth. So they've done that. Gary's here. If you have any specific questions, I'm trying to give you an overview, and we can go into that, or if you need all that time at this meeting and so forth, that obviously is funded as it goes over. But with the rescue replacement, their recommendation, as it's been coming out in their discussions and being at their meetings, is that it take on the role of a rescue pumper. So whereas now the rescue, we have Rescue 8 is a rescue. Doesn't carry water. It doesn't have a pump on it to pump water or draft water and so forth. So that's the direction we're going. In real short, and again, Gary and the committee are here if you have any more specific questions that I can't answer or can have them come up, she's listening to me the whole time, is that the idea of that is that we would, one, help us out with staffing. So when the rescue goes out, in the older days, the rescue primarily went out for car crashes. That's not what we primarily do with the rescue today. It still is a portion of it, and it goes out because there are other functions that it does. But we are very fortunate that today's cars and technology don't have as many heavy rescue operations, at least in our area. Where we're actually using the tools and cutting people out and extricating and so forth. Does it happen? Yes. Is time of the essence? Time is critical. You've all heard of that, the golden hour and all of those things that didn't come into that setup. But we're fortunate that because of all these other safety things and so forth, that the need for us to do that on a frequent basis is not there. Our rescue is used a lot more for things going on to the Appalachian Trail, things going into water, things going into stuff in those areas, which we can talk about again more at a later date to educate you, but we have formed a regional approach to that for the town of Kent. You may have heard some different things about it, and I've talked a little bit in the past, but we've just recently done that. We have 4 departments that have teamed up, and we're doing this from training to staffing and to the sharing of equipment side of it. So that's a much higher thing than we had years and years ago, especially when the current rescue, which is a 2002 vehicle, was put into place and how that was done. But the committee has analyzed everything from, like, the rescue carries a cascade system to replenish the air. So they're looking at that and deciding, whether that's going to be needed to be on the new rescue, whether it's not, where things are going. They're still analyzing that, making their final, direction and so forth as it comes about. There's things like, again, the Hearst tool on it, as I was referencing. So do we still need a tool? 110% yes. But again, as this goes, we have multi-uses of it. So from the technical side of things, and then the staffing, those are my 2 big concerns, and why asked the committee to look at this, and the committee is continuing its trend in this and where we're going, but that's the direction we're going. So Lynn, to your specific question, is it a replacement of just a rescue? The direction is, and what we're budgeting and planning for is no. It is to go in the direction of a rescue pumper. Again, the department has not made its final decision. The committee has been very diligently finishing up its engine one recommendation. The department has approved that, and they are moving forward with that, and that'll be done soon. And then they will continue their focus on the rescue side of things. So we'll be back and forth and where things are. The dollar amount, again, is huge. We're looking to, huge, my words, again, because I look at it, these are huge numbers. And the costs all the way through. Gary has some comparisons that he can reference to you even in today's environment for what we were doing with the engine one replacement. We were looking at numbers over $1 million. There's only 825,000, in there. So the committee worked very hard and came up with some options and came up with some direction looking at both of these, options here to do this. Lynn, one of the questions you had asked me about, just in general, for information, purposes, and everybody can, but as we were talking about, is that how many specific calls does the rescue go on? We can get that information. I do not have that for tonight. We have, our reporting software that we put together that records our calls and so forth. And there we list if an apparatus goes out, who the driver is, and the crew that's assigned to it and so forth. So on that, I talked with Jean Speck, who is our technology officer, and she said that she could write a program to pull that data out. So if it's something that you feel would be important to know, she's going to spend some time to do it. I didn't ask her how much time, but she said she could work on it over this coming weekend and be able to get that if you want that specific information. I can tell you that it's an active piece, as I referenced, because of the calls. I'm not even going to speculate right now how many times it goes out, in this particular case, but I can tell you that it's an urgent need when that piece goes out. I think everybody would understand that, if it's a car crash, the golden hour, but also water rescues, wilderness rescues, search and rescues, and so forth. Some of those you have a little more time on than the others, but as it goes in there. So it is a very, very needed piece of equipment in the town of Kent and for our geographic area.
I know when the fire department first bought that, it was also a mobile command post. Is that still used that way?
It is, but not as much. We've had to adapt to things where it is, and currently from the regional aspect, Sherman has an SUV that's used as a mobile command post. More set up, more conducive to what we're doing at running an incident. And so we share that. And I may call that out, or one of the officers may call that out specifically for something. It's automatically assigned where we really need it when we have accountability on a bigger scale is when we're going into the woods, search and rescues, things of that nature.
Regarding your what do you want to call it, your shared services or whatever that you're providing, what kind of agreement or working relationship, formalized work relationship do you have with a regionalized support system? Do you have something that you worked out with each town in the area, general area, or specifics? Like you said, the command vehicle will use the SUV from Sherman. Is there something more formally written out or projected that you guys are going to be doing in the future?
Right now we have it as set up as an agreement verbally amongst the departments. There are other mutual aid agreements that have a written setup, like mostly for EMS, for our ambulance side, where we agree if available, we'll go to your, you agree if available, you go to our other group is available, as it goes into. But what we did is we formalized it more in with LCD, with the dispatch center. So as they go through their call list of, screening a call, going into their protocol, their EMD, emergency medical dispatching, or fire, which goes to the fire rescue side of things, and determine the type of call. Then with that, we have what's like a first alarm assignment, second alarm assignment, third alarm assignment. So it's done automatically right from the dispatch as it goes in. Several months ago, it wasn't that. It was an officer or myself would say, okay, call this, add this, to the assignment, or in this case. So this case happens right from the beginning. So a call in Sherman right now goes out for a water rescue or a search and rescue and the thing. LCD is going to know, written in the protocol, right while they're talking to the 911 caller, that we need to dispatch Sherman Fire, Sherman Ambulance, Kent Fire, Gaylordsville Fire, Warren Fire, all to go with that. And then we know as we go, well, our rescue that goes with it. Similar in Kent, if this calls in Kent, automatically they're going to know we're going to send Warren Fire, Warren Ambulance is going to be assigned because I have the ambulance coming to Kent to protect our rescuers. Kent Fire, Kent Ambulance goes, the ambulance for the person that may be injured or the victims, potential victims. And then Gaylordsville Fire is coming and Sherman Fire is coming in this particular case. Then each department identifies, Marty, and we talk about it as a group, what specific apparatus goes first, on that or setup. Like a UTV comes, for example, if it's a water rescue in Gaylordsville, they have kayaks. So again, we share resources. This is kind of in the capital side, but what goes on. So we don't want to buy a rescue and buy kayaks and a rescue that can carry the kayaks, right? Or a squad that carry the kayaks because we have one in Gaylordsville. So we've looked at this and said, we can't afford to do this as individual islands or individual towns. We can't afford to do this as, from a staffing standpoint, to be able to staff all that. So if we work together on it and train together, we had our first regional training back in the end of October on this as we're going, and again, a small region as it works in.
So you said it's kind of verbal right now, but LCD is the one that actually will do the dispatch based on the availability and the amount of equipment and type of equipment each department has based on, again, the incident being called out on.
Correct. And again, it's verbal amongst us where we have kind of email, referencing, that, okay, we're going to work on this. We have meetings where we agree we're going to do this, but it's in writing to the dispatch center. Okay. So that way it's set. So it goes right from the beginning, if you're on your way home and you call this in, it's going to do that just as it is in writing to the dispatch center. Whereas if it's depending on the type of fire it is at a building, where it would come out, where then it would be a first alarm assignment. And then again, that helps us on the fire side where we're talking about, do we have to have two separate engines? Do we have to have two separate tankers? Do we have to have, this vehicle, this vehicle, this vehicle? We set this up from what I'm calling a regional approach, in this case, whereas any call that goes in where you have flames reported from the 911 call in the town of Kent is all zoned. So it automatically at the dispatch center goes right out and says that Kent Fire goes, Kent Ambulance goes, and then the closest tanker and closest engine are assigned to that. That's a first alarm assignment for anything like that to help out.
So once it becomes part of the LCD protocol, that's pretty formalized because it's going to happen.
Yes, it's formalized. So if there's no communication from anybody from Kent, our radios are down, something happened, it didn't work. There's another department, another setup automatically going right from the 911 call. Very formal, automatic in there as happens as it goes in.
You say very formal. Is this part of all when you do the LCD management, you have a kind of a cog or group that gets together with LCD? Is that what they do? Is they formalize those relationships? Or is this something that's a state requirement or something else with LCD itself? What I'm trying to get to, Alan, is that I think you're on the right direction, and this department certainly, as well as I'm sure every other town around here, understands the necessity to have that mutual relationship. You can't do it on our own anymore. We can't. You don't have the numbers, the cost of equipment, the type of equipment that you need, the type of fire, the type of or event incident you're responding to is almost unlimited. So I'm just looking at, like, if we're trying to describe what we're doing in the capital plan in the out years to be able to get the equipment that our fire department needs here, as well as ones that are available to support other mutual aid, which I think all of us want to do as neighbors, I would highly recommend that we find some way, and maybe that's, obviously it is lead of the fire department, not our lead to do that. I recommend that find some way to be able to explain how that's going to happen in the future and what you're doing now and how you're doing it in the future, so that people, when they go to vote and they come in here and discuss, geez, look at that cost of a fire truck. I got one for $399 at the Esso station when I was a kid, and all that kind of crap. So that kind of stuff I think is important to know. And I think the lead, as it's developing, it comes from you guys. You know the business, the organization. LCD is one part, but we'd love to be able to say, okay, this is how many times we've gone out on mutual. This is how we've gone out, and why our rescue agents had to go out to support these type of things, not necessarily in our town, but to support other areas as well, because that does again increase the the amount of use and support and the necessity for the equipment that I think the public needs to know and realize. I think it's just, a lot of people just are going to think, hey, they're here for my neighborhood, and that's it. Well, yes, but in this environment, we need to look for resources. So that's just my recommendation as we go forward, as you start developing your presentation to the town or to the board of finance, whatever it may be, or maybe even independently of getting in this process, you just decide, hey, in September, we're going to have a big fire equipment, whatever, emergency management, emergency response information night, and we're going to show you what it is we do and why we do it. I don't know, but something like that I think would be important. But anyway, all right. So my last question is the communication piece, and I know you do grants like everybody else. You got to do a ton of grants, but just doing some research myself, are you looking at grants to help support your communication system as well?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
110%. And when I made the presentation about the communications, if you would go back to, I don't know if it was in the minutes, but if it was pre-recorded then, yes, we did talk about, and that was one of the things, is that as it gets closer, we're hoping that a grant will be available, because communications, as I think you know, Marty, is kind of a buzzword, in that the grant setups and so forth. So yes, we are looking at that completely. And then the idea was that, and that's kind of why the numbers, again, it's a high number, at least for me, but really it's not a high number. It's actually low compared to what really we've got to do. And the thought was that we would definitely be able to offset that. We were fortunate that through last year, the ARPA money, the town granted some of that for communications. So those radios have just recently been ordered. And we were looking to see, because an example, we ordered a portable radio. And I believe, I don't know if Tim is on here, but I believe the portable radio is around $5,000 per radio. And you think about that, that's what I'm saying. That was what we were trying to do. And so this is where the cost on some of them was like 6, 7, and 8,000. We were able to find another manufacturer, that could lower that cost because they came out and became available. So these are things that are living in Kent my whole life, I just can't understand how some of this stuff is going on out there. And so other people just talk about it as like, well, yeah, this is just the way it is now. Yeah. So again, I covered a little bit more and so forth, I hope, but to give the information, and if you do need, actual numbers on something, again, I can tell Gina, I told her I'd wait till after speed in case there's something else that you might want, let us know. We can take the time to try to put this together. If you're like, no, look, we understand it's a rescue, we're not looking for a new specialty type of item or so forth. But I want to, just make sure that you understand that. And again, its role has changed a little bit into what we're moving forward. And again, Gary's here. I don't know if he wants to say anything or if you have any questions, but the whole committee is here, or the majority of the committee is here, to make sure that you understand the change and the shift, and primarily for two reasons. And that's, again, staffing. Think about this. You go to a car accident and we don't know if the car is going to catch fire. We don't know, what's going on, in the old days of gasoline and stuff. Now we have the new days of electric, and the electric fire is a whole different beast, 110%, different. So we look at that and what may be available, not available, what can do for resources to handle that. But, so, you want to be able to do that from a rescue standpoint. So we only are able to get one piece of equipment out. Is that piece of equipment going to have those capabilities, and not just to extinguish the fire, because if it's there, but to protect, the victims and to protect us as the responders.
So am I understanding you? I'm sorry.
That's good.
That you could potentially put out a car fire with this rescue/pumper combination?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And another question to follow up, like how long are you guys, what are you aiming for to replace the vehicles, the apparatus? Because this is going to be 27 years old. If we leave it at $400,000, and you guys can start in 2029.
So, Gary, I'll let you've talked about this more. Gary's worked on it. We have before had, which has been updated, like a sheet of the equipment, its current year. If you went back through records, you'd find those. Gary was just working on, he thought he brought it with him, but he didn't. It got left at his office. A sheet, that says the current year, the current setup, and so forth. But Gary, you want to just comment on that?
My question is, it'll be 20, the rescue will be 27 years old. What are you guys aiming for? Is that like the, what you would
So
prefer?
a Class A pumper is like our number one truck to go out and is responsible for fighting fires. Technically, NFPA calls that a 20-year-old truck, then it's off the market. The rescue, we can kind of push out a little bit, but we're looking for 20, 25 years. It'd be great to get this rescue cycled in so that we could have that as being maybe 20 or maybe 15 years old, and then we replace our engine, and we'll always have something that's within 20 years old. We'd like to get that cycled in. But
So-
the cost, like Alan said, the cost, we were blown out of the water.
And so the short side of this is the most frequently used apparatus or the Class A pumper, we look at a 20-year rotation. When you get into a tanker, just a tanker, I mean, just as in to minimize it, but you know, where is it? That the discussions are, and but the way technology is and the advancement stuff, maybe it could be in the 25-year range. You don't want to go beyond that. Same thing for the rescue. So we're looking at that 25-year. You know, a brush truck in that 25-year, you know, when you're trying to balance, yes, it'd be nice, some departments go 10, you know, 15, you know, different things like that, but being a reality of where things are, that's our goal right now while I'm, you know, in the group that you have here in front of you.
That was my question, like what's the realistic lifespan of a machine of this type? And if it's about 20 years, 25 years, it's gonna be 27 and 29, that's old.
That's why, and the reason I bring it up is because the conversation came up at our last meeting. Well, let's split the 400,000. Then you're going 28 years.
Yeah.
So it's significant when you split that last column number and you're expecting
It
a truck.
depends on the quality of truck that you buy too, because we looked at some trucks and I went right to our current mechanics and they said, Gary, that's a 10 or 15-year truck. So what do we do? Come back to you guys in 10 years and say, hey, the truck's falling apart. So you have to buy quality too, but we're not up at row A trying to, you know, find something super expensive. So we're trying to get the best bang for our buck.
And I know the Board of Finance is going to ask you this, but they're going to ask you about buying used.
So, yeah.
No.
My last question is, so what's the maintenance yearly on this vehicle? I mean, there must be some kind of maintenance cost. Is that going up each year? I mean, how does, I don't know if you have numbers.
Anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000.
3,000 to 5,000.
The tower's closer to 9,000. That's a more.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
And again, when I joined the department,
And it depends. Some years you find, hey, this truck needs a brake job. Now you add 5,000 to that number.
Yep, okay, good, thank you.
and when I joined the department, a lot of the maintenance was done by, you know, the local garages, you know, or they volunteered to come down afterwards, you know what I mean? Or to meet after, at night or after work, the truck went over there and so forth. We're fortunate, we still have some basic things, you know, we have John Christian's our engineer, he's here tonight and so forth. And, you know, where certain things he can still do, or he identifies the problem and then it goes out because, you know, of the world we live in, you know, today. So just as a thing, Wendell had run a couple numbers for me earlier today, but in 2021, the fire department request for service side, just for FD, not EMS in that case. You know, we provide fire service, rescue service, and EMS service, you know, for the town of Kent. But in 2021, the requests were 180 calls. And so we were just, you know, out of COVID, you know, into that case and so forth, but that's where it was. There's still a little bit of that left over. In 2022, it jumped to 240. And currently for 2023, with what, 5-6 days left, we're at 260. So.
Yeah, I reckon as the aging population, any kind of population growth at all, it's going to put another strain on that. So.
And that doesn't count EMS, that's the fire side.
Understand it? No, it's just response to the incident.
Yeah. What is specifically on this, which has been done before, and Lynn, to a point you just, I would like to add, where you talk about buying used. So if you remember, and again, this, I'm fortunate to have a committee as active as they are, and the department, the membership that supports what's going on, because if you remember when the tower was purchased, It had gone through, the town had put together, hired a consultant to come in and look at the town, look at all the needs, and then make recommendations. And my memory serves me correctly, they recommended 2 types of towers for the town of Kent for its setup that would be needed. A little bit different, types for residential versus kind of the commercial side, because Kent has both of those. And then this tower was found, it is used, and it was refurbished and so forth. So you did have a pretty good cost savings there. Barbara or Gary probably know much better than that cost, and I don't need to take up your time with that tonight. But I just wanted to let you know that we are looking at that under the current setup of the engine 1 replacement. The committee did look at used. The committee looked at brand new. The committee looked at timelines of how long things could get. I don't know, John or Bill or Gary, some of the timeline on getting a new piece of apparatus would have been 2.5 years. Am I correct with that? My memory is that. So, just from when you order it, and it hasn't been ordered yet in this particular case when I was talking about, that's where I said where I really got me before. But so they also looked at demonstrators, in other words, demos, to see what's coming, what's being built, and to see if it meets the specification, or if it's in that building process, can it be modified? And then there's what I thought was a pretty sizable savings there. And just, that's the direction they are right now at, and that's where they're finalizing this deal on, to go through. So we are looking at all of those things, even though it's not just whatever, because again, but it's there. And so that made me bring it out when you said that. But what I wanted to say was that in the past, either through the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, and the town as a whole, has, if money has been saved, they've allowed that to be carried over or used towards other apparatus through the appropriation process, however you do that. So I would ask and strongly recommend that that's something that you look at as a new Board of Selectmen. And that really, I think, can come into play, in there, and that, however that gets formalized. But so for example, if we're able to save, let's say $50,000 or $100,000 of the 825 on the engine 1 replacement, we have these huge costs coming down the road on the rescuing. Is there a way, since it's already been tied, is there, again, staying in the fire apparatus idea, maybe you guys are sitting there going, oh yeah, we've been talking about this for a while. So I'm just saying that as chief of the department, and I strongly would encourage that, so that way it can stay there. And again, it gives us incentive, because we're trying to do the best we can, and it's not just trying to, where money goes, whatever, we want to put it in. I mean, we're all here, we're citizens and residents and people using the equipment and so forth. And so we're trying to, piece all that together and make it work as it goes through. A salesman could come around, and I've sat on several of the committee members, and they're like, oh, this is great. And these guys are like, we're not going to spend that extra money on that. This isn't, it just does, what I'm saying in that particular case. So again, please have some confidence.
That's exactly what happened when we replaced our brush truck. We were buying engine 2 at the time, and was able to save $75,000, and that money got pushed forward so we could finish our brush truck that we had, I think it was probably 4 or 5 years. I think you probably remember, Lynn. We had 75,000 in there. The truck cost 55. So what do we do? No, you can't build a brush truck for 20 grand.
Yeah.
So once we got the savings from our engine 2, that money, Barbara and I worked together with it, and we rolled it over to the brush truck and were able to finish the job. But that took 5 or 6 years to do.
And I think with, again, just again, not to speak for the town or any of the other departments, but when you look at these unknown, 4 years out, 5 years out, 6 years out, 3 years out, whatever it is, when you're budgeting, you're making as best educated guess as you can, right? And we can't do the other. But then this way you have that, so it can go back in and go maybe to that same thing, because you're able to save money, or you wanted to budget higher. You didn't want to all of a sudden go, oh my God, we're $200,000 short this year when we actually come in. Now what do we do? You know what I mean, in this particular case. So again, your area of expertise, your guys' thing there, but really as a planning person or trying to do this from this side, we really see where this could be a benefit.
In answer to his question about the data, is it helpful to you guys to know the data of just to have an idea of how often different trucks are going out?
Absolutely.
I mean, I think maybe it doesn't need to be right away, but I think if it was by the annual town meeting, which is January 18th, that would be helpful to be able to share that with people, engine one goes out this many times in an average year. Engine two, this, engine, rescue 8 goes out this many times.
Okay.
It'd just be information.
Well, I think, Marty, to your point, as we start looking at these other things to find out, do we do this, how do we go, is it's going mutual aid and so forth. So as again, from that regional approach, because it's not only to your point about you're helping your neighbor, but it's the neighbor also helping us, and that's how we got to survive here, in this particular case, because you just can't, my opinion, in today's environment, you can't live standalone. You've got to rely on your neighbor. It's got to be that way.
This is kind of just an offshoot that it used to be, in my day, my dad was on the department. There was always a fire expo day or whatever, where people, could actually come around the firehouse. I know you guys are open quite a bit to different events and people do wander around. But, we actually put out storyboards on exactly what we're doing here and how many responses and how we do it, regionally and so on. Yeah, I just think that at that some point, I don't know if you have that day, if there is a day anymore, if they have such a thing, but it surely would be good to for our town anyway, to understand exactly what you're doing. Now, when I say that the population's changing and growing, it's not just EMS responding to somebody, falling down or whatever because they're a little older. I'm not going to talk about my mother-in-law, but we are getting older. But we're also, those things happen where things get on fire, things are left to gone. It's not necessarily just the EMS response; it's the whole incident response. And we're getting the climate change and the result of things we saw with with the ice storms, just water flowing down, people's flooding in basements and so on. And I'm sure there's times when the fire department, I know, used to respond to that. I'm sure they do if it's appropriate to that. But that's, understanding it's a totality of exactly what what a volunteer fire department does for the town and for the region and the community. I think it's important for people to know that. You have to understand because, as much as we're going to keep Kent rural, we need to keep Kent as well. And that's going to, I think we all in some ways would agree that, bringing in jobs, bringing in some other additional younger families, different families coming here to expand and grow Kent a little bit, to be able to meet the desires and needs of the community itself. It's going to, also fall to our adjacent organizations like the fire department to be able to grow or be responsive to what happens when, things start growing and evolving. We're looking at a new affordable housing group here, but this, 6 to 10 units that potentially going to, cause some more things, especially if they come running down the hill into your backyard in the fire department and start playing around your backyard. Who knows what's going to happen? But anyway, but hopefully, but I'm saying there's a good.
You're right on target. Everything from the amount of people that are using the river more, the Bulls Bridge area more, to the being in the woods more, all the way through hiking and so forth, and not people not necessarily being prepared before they go out on those hikes or what they're doing. Maybe they just don't know those things. So I
agree. And it's
you clarified that well.
Get ahead of and educate the public. I'm supportive of your budget overall and the programs we need to do. So, all right. So now we're about 2 minutes before the end of 5:30. So I'm going to, unless you have anything else to add.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for coming out.
I'm going to go ahead and call a recess at 5:27. And we will reconvene as soon as the park direct come back with their information. So,
Yeah, we're going to go upstairs.
yeah. There we go. All right, we're back in from recess now at 5:58. Okay, now back to our capital plan, excuse me, which was 9.2, and we're now talking with Kent Park and Rec. And on the board, you'll see I asked to kind of step out a little bit and show the changes to what we're doing and what we recommended at our last meeting. And so, if you want to.
I would say that out of the 60,000 for Emery Park, the trails we could probably extend out. The paving and drainage is pretty important. John and I met last week, was it, and walked the park, and we need to try to connect with you guys and with Harding and our RAPS and DOT, because the runoff from 341 is coming into the park and just doing havoc. So it's got to be a combined effort. There would be, we would have to incur some expense. If they can do that, we would need that money to do some stuff inside the park in addition. And that's kind of key. Emery Park got delayed. I think that, Jared put his efforts into recreating programs and things like that. But it is a town park, and if we're going to be able to salvage it in any way, we need to address the drainage issue. That's the primary concern. As far as the trail money goes, that maybe we could play out, because I think we talked about looking for grants.
Yeah, I'll speak after you.
So, that would be my only plea back, is maybe, reconsider that money.
The trail grant, the one that I saw recently, it looked like the town had to put money toward it. Have you ever run into that, like a 20%?
Yeah, well, here's the thing, it's from the state of Connecticut, and it's up to $10 million, and the minimum is $10,000, and the maximum is $250,000. Basically, we have a big problem on 341. It started off, we had problems beginning with the beaver hut, which lasted 2 years, which meant that we had to shut down the pool, and then came COVID, which was 2.5 years. So we've been on a hiatus, basically, because we weren't able to do anything. The grant from the state of Connecticut is going to expire March 10th. It's a simple, and I will show you guys, if you come, and here's the thing, I need the three of you to come to Emery Park and to Commons Park, where I will show you all the problems that we've had, and so you understand it better and the cost figures will work in for it. I mean, I need that from you guys, because we need to, for 341, we need to get the Department of Transportation, we got to get Maria Horn, we got to get Steve Harding. It's so involved. It's like 200 feet up the road where it's just collapsed and gone back in the back road, and it's down by the water system, and it's going right into the back of the park, and it's killing off the park. So we need you guys to come there so you can fight for us to get all that proper changes done for us.
What grant is this?
This is a grant from the state of Connecticut.
I understand, but what's the name of the grant? Where is it going?
Trails grant.
Trails grant?
Okay, so again, we haven't.
You looked at that yet? Besides you, I mean.
I can show you, if you guys show up, I'll show you the grants and stuff.
And the deadline is March
March 10th.
11th.
Yep.
So it's not like it's gonna expire, it's just that you gotta
we'd have to-
apply by, yeah.
I mean, there's so much that we have to do and catch up, and that's the most, it's the most important thing to do right now, because it's going to cost more money, like the fire department. We don't, I mean, some of these figures are way too low, unfortunately. But yeah, we need to do that. And especially if we have to want to go into the trails there and hire a contractor, we might have to use a bigger equipment. Rick? Yes? To go up in the trails?
My equipment's not gonna go up that hill.
No, exactly. So, I mean, the culvert that we have that goes up to the back of the park, it's falling apart, Rick. It's been washed out 2 or 3 times.
Oh, we've done work on that, but if you need to replace the pipe, that would.
I mean, so if they're gonna bring in some sort of heavy equipment, they won't be able to do it. Yeah, okay. So that, I mean, a bridge.
But what actually needs to be done with the which are you talking about, the trail up the hill? Or which trail?
Yeah, we have one big trail. Using that grant, we could also try and plan ahead for a smaller grant, which if you look at it, it would be further south of the main trail, and it's easier grade to go up, not versus the other one, which is too steep.
Building a new trail.
Right, and that could be part of the grant. And that's the other thing too. There is so much available for grants all over the state, the government, everything. I mean, there's solar panels that can be bought as well. But the whole thing is, we need to get somebody who's going to be a grant writer, whether it be a part-timer or on a percentage basis, but we need to get that in place as soon as possible because we're missing out on a lot of these grants. Anything else? I mean, it's important that you guys get there to see what's going on.
I've been up there, I'm trying to.
When was the last
I
time?
understand the drainage, but I have seen the runoff in the back there, but, okay. But the specificity of the grant, if you're talking within 2 months, more or less, or 3 months to get it in, we want to make sure, like, what grant it is, have you submitted that to anyone to look at, or?
No, I have it at home.
So your
If you guys show
commission,
up, you guys show up.
looked at it and reviewed the grant and made decisions on what you want to do forward with?
I mean,
We can do that.
not recent.
Okay, I just wondered, I mean, you know, any grant you guys.
And you guys have never applied for that grant before, right?
Back in Leslie's time, we had it. When we never were, you know, the only thing we were asking for was like $2,000 or $3,000 to get a plan back then. And you're talking about 15 years ago. So
So was there a plan done for like creating a new trail? No.
they didn't, they passed us by. They were mostly interested in getting our big projects done.
Okay.
I mean, the money's there and it looks like it's gonna, you know, it's possible that we could get it. So, I mean, you don't know till you try. You know, but it's, you know, I mean, I showed Rufus, I mean, all the problems. He knows what they're all about. I mean, there's a lot of work. It's not simple. That funding there is not going to be, I mean, a basketball court, I mean, if you're going to putting in a paving for that, that would be, might be great, but then you're going to take away from the parking. Don't forget you have a stream that runs through the park.
Right.
And because of the inland wetlands, you might be interfering with the inland wetlands.
Yeah, I think Park and Rec really needs to come up with a plan.
Well, that could be
Like
after.
engineering to actually.
That would be a
plot
separate-
out, you know, what's possible.
Yeah, that would be
in Grove
separate.
Park.
Yeah, that would be separate though. Yeah.
Well,
I
it's
think
all
it's
connected though.
Integral to going forward with anything is really having a plan and not just a grant and ideas that we should have a couple trails and all that stuff. Got to be more specific than that. I mean, we have a lot of trails. There's a lot of trails around this town. Is it that necessary for us to do one at Emory? I don't know. I mean, if you have one already, I've gone up that mountain. That's a pretty steep mountain. That's like one of the
Yeah, I mean-
toughest trails. I did it once.
People aren't going to do it. You know, they're not going to do it when they start out and they look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but so having a plan or whatever, that's, you know, I'm all for grants. If grants are important to help the program, then let's.
To help, yeah.
I know the commission is kind of organizing itself again right now, and that's fine. But, and I certainly would look at the drainage issue again. You can go with Rick someday and take a look and see what we can look at as a town.
We're going to need a DOT.
I understand, but it's coming onto the Kent Park and Rec property, correct? Or on the property, town property. Town, exactly. Well, everybody claims it's a Kent Park and Rec like it Commons. It's a town-owned property that the Kent Park and Rec is in charge of programming for. So that, you know, yeah, it's a hand glove thing. But yeah, to make sure that, you know, yeah, if there's something that we can do, then yeah, it should be the town helping to set up.
The main thing again is the grants. As much as you can get, you know, especially for parks. Everybody's interested in donating for the parks. So. Anything else? Any other questions? I'd like to see you guys here because I showed Rufus the whole thing. He was totally astonished. It's, you know, it hasn't been the Park and Rec's problem. It's just that we run into roadblocks, the animals, and everything. It's COVID, so.
If we all three go together, it has to be a meeting. If you do individually, we could do.
That's fine.
It might be easier to do it individually.
I mean, I could do that with you. I could do that with you because, you know, right now.
We'll get Marty up there for a second time.
Yeah. Good luck. Good luck.
Well, it's up there, September, I think was last time I was up there.
Really? Because I sent somebody up there.
Anyway, yeah, but we'll go again and actually view it through your eyes when you're looking at it. I have to do that.
So I believe I have up on the screen the grant that you're discussing.
Yes, that's it. You got it.
Yeah,
got it.
well, it's a ranking grant, so the application is ranked
Points.
on points for
Right.
all of these categories.
Right.
So there has to be a maintenance plan, there has to be maps, there needs to be letters of support, public
There may be other grants.
participation, environmental reviews.
Right. That's all part of the grant.
Yeah, it
No.
might.
Barbara, could you make a copy of that for me?
Of course,
I appreciate that.
It also might be worth talking with Connie Manis, Kent Land Trust, to see what grants they may know about.
Well, here's the other thing too, because look, there's
They
like
can
10.
apply for this grant.
Yes.
That was one of.
You don't need to, they
Probably,
can.
yeah, private organizations can apply for. I think we even sent that to Connie already, I think. Was that the one we sent to Connie and said they could apply, or that was the one they were asking about, correct? Am I thinking of this one or a different one? Barbara, do you remember that? This was like a week and a half ago or something, before Christmas?
Yes, it was this grant,
That one, okay. All right.
same said.
Gotcha, okay. All right, but
If
yeah,
you want to do it individually, that's fine. You just tell me when and where, and I'll be there for you guys.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
As long as it's not the 10th, right?
no, before that.
I will say publicly that I'm a little concerned that the young families in Kent are going to be feeling like they're being not supported again, based on us pulling things like the basketball court out of.
Well, there is the court by the school.
Right, I know.
So
But
that-
I'm just worried, I'm worried that I heard that quite a bit ever since the budget vote, that they don't feel like the town is supporting them. So I'm a little nervous about moving all this stuff.
That was mainly after the vote against.
I know.
You can also add one as in the parking lot. You know, you can put one in the parking lot, basketball court. It would be drier and safer. You know,
The parking lot where?
the Emery, Commons Park.
Don't we need that for parking?
I mean, you could just probably.
You said basketball courts in Kent Center School parking lot, three or two of them. But anyway, well, we can look at it, but I understand. I think part of what I heard too from a lot of the younger families is they didn't understand the process. They didn't understand why we couldn't go online, why they couldn't do properties.
Yeah.
There was a lot of education that went on, so I totally agree with you when they're going to come and ask questions. But I think, I think we did a pretty good job with this. I know we're pushing some things back across the line. But again, this gives us an opportunity, the commission, to get reconstituted, to look at this grant and other grants, because I think there are other grants we're doing that are not as complicated as this one might be. I looked at this one, and this one was a lot of basic background stuff on planning and stuff that we probably aren't ready to do, but there may be other type of things that we could look at, and I agree with you on that, so.
Yeah, and we did move some monies over without question, and I was probably driving that a little bit. And we asked the same thing of DPW, of the town hall, Swift.
That's fine.
And we were trying to get, the numbers, somewhat where the Board of Finance was looking at. Now, having said that, you are here now, and we just kind of moved things willy-nilly. I mean, we just moved the basketball court and left the splash pad. So I'm going to ask you two now. I mean, maybe we should bring everything back. Maybe we should leave the basketball court and put the splash pad back in here. Like what, in terms of an order of operations, in terms of what is needed, I'm hearing drainage. Like, we need drainage. I mean, that's town property, we have to put that back in.
I think drainage is number one for being able to reclaim Emery.
Yes, so I agree. So drainage.
What I suggest is that you come as soon as possible. Right, and then you can get an idea of what's going to happen, what's needed. Okay, but it's important that we take care of the Route 341.
Yes.
It's the main project, and we got to get those people out here, so they can understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And then we also have to get an aquarium down here too, because of the fact is that there was no map at that time where the pipeline goes through the property. So that's important as well.
No, so I'm hearing drainage.
Yes, that's good. That's good.
And again, I walk Kent Commons a lot now, having down here, and I always imagine, I try to imagine where is a splash pad going. It's not where's the basketball going. So these are two huge ticket items, both of these things. And what I was just trying to do was just split it up. But let's say you tell us that basketball court is more important than splash pad, we could switch that. I want to give the young families of Kent something. I'm not saying let's cut all these things, but I'm saying we have to do it incrementally to some degree. And if you tell us now that a basketball court perhaps is more needed than splash pad at this point, I wouldn't mind moving that. maybe more people can use the basketball. I would use the basketball court. I mean, I'm walking around Kick Commons thinking, I couldn't shoot some hoops as I go back.
Right.
Splash pad, not so much. Right now, it's gonna be for really younger.
Plus you got to hire a guard, see.
So I think we need that, it doesn't have to happen now, but maybe at some point, I'd love to get you to list.
All I can say is my grandson has used the court by Kent Center School a lot.
Okay.
So it's there, it's usable. Do we need two? I don't think so. I would prefer splash pad money before a second basketball court. I think that,
Without Emory right now serving any kind of a swimming need, at least a splash pad is a wet need.
Yeah.
And understanding why the splash pad was put forward by Park and Rec before, I understood that, and I was supporting it. And as we've said before, even the investigation of a potential pool is something that I'm certainly in favor of investigating because of the benefit to seniors, to young families, to kids, older people. I mean, the pool itself, having run pools before, it's a community-wide. Now, saying the cost maybe a little bit thing, but even the splash pad, families down there at the playground going down and run around. I was there yesterday watching kids run around, and they were actually playing in the wetlands, and they were splashing around in it. And the mother kid, the kids want to love playing in what, But I understand that if that's serving some need, because we do have some need, right, or some ability right now for a basketball court. Kids ride their bike down to school, play basketball, hang out in the field, kick the soccer ball around and all that, which again is part of what the Kent Center School and Park and Rec now in charge of that field is all about as well. So it's kind of I know it's a school basketball court, it's on the school side of the line there, but it is something obviously that everybody uses all the time.
So maybe we don't need the basketball court, which I'm hearing, but maybe we need a water.
I'm just wondering,
pool,
balancing
a
out.
Pool and just take both of those monies and put it into a pool.
well, I think the other thing Jared opened up was Kent School allowing Park and Rec to use the pool
Yes.
for lessons.
Yeah.
And that could be extended to senior.
It is.
swimming lanes.
They're already doing that.
Right, and right, but I'm saying, but outside, the other part is having it outside when kids are, picnics and all that stuff, we're not gonna do that at Kent School. I mean, that's gonna be great for recreational swim, for senior swim, for kids to learn how to swim. But actually jumping around, splash pad, I kept that for that reason. Basketball, I thought we could move it back to find out more of a plan, see what else we can do. And again, if we're chasing grants, we could chase grants for these other items as well.
Exactly. I mean, here's another point too, is when I was taking Rufus around, people have their dogs in the tennis court. It's $250,000. They're ruining the tennis court. And the lady was saying, she was laughing at us basically, and we have to block that off. I blocked 4 signs. And I'm hoping you guys will give me permission to hang those signs where no dogs were allowed. And then also hang 2 in the playground area where they also were, in the brand new playground area, where they keep the dogs out. I mean, because.
I've asked people to take their dogs out of the tennis court.
Exactly. It drives me nuts.
Sometimes I'm there and the gates are open and anyone can go in. So I think they do need to be locked until.
There's a little difference on the commission on whether or
Yeah.
not the gate should be locked or not.
Yeah, but I mean, it's.
Resolve, we have to, the commission has to resolve that.
It's $250,000 and you can't afford that. I mean.
It's a really nice, I like the tennis courts, eventually it'll have to be repaved and stuff, but the fencing is in great shape. I've dealt with some
I
very.
slipped on it the other day because of that.
But we gotta take care of that, that's in great shape.
And here's the other thing too, because of all the drainage problems that we have, the pavilion, the water goes in towards where the pavilion is. It goes underneath the pavilion and it freezes up and starts to crack up the cement. So that's another big issue. I mean, there's so many issues that we have,
But we have ARPA funds to deal with the drainage.
Drainage, exactly, but we need to, we need to get going because it's just, there's a big problem here. We've been stalling for too long. It's just sad. It's really sad. I mean, we couldn't do a lot of stuff at Emory Park, but we could have been doing stuff at Commons Park. And there was no movement on that part. And I felt bad because, I was injured at the time and I'm usually at the parks doing all kinds of work, so.
All right.
Well, thank you
The other
guys.
thing too, the only
I
thing,
gotta go.
before you guys go,
We're not going before you go.
but anyway, I was gonna say that before you go,
This is, it's not yours now.
so the ball field committee. Is that
That's not a capital thing, that's a regular budget, and we can
We can talk about that next week and make a recommendation.
Because there's another problem there too as well, because we can't do any improvements on the fields unless we go talk to Kent School, because apparently it's a lease program that we have with them.
Yeah, but we've taken over maintenance and management of that part. That was a
But,
transfer.
yeah, we
can
we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Thank you for.
No, but I mean,
Thank you for bringing it.
you know, call me and let me know when you're going to be there and I'll be there with you.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Thanks, guys.
You can always order dinner in.
I hadn't thought about that sooner. All right, go ahead and make a motion on the current monies we have in there. I'm gonna throw the 35 back into that budget, leave the trails
For
right
the
now.
trails?
Yeah, leave the, start with the drainage, and we're willing to do that, and then go with there, because, you know, I know there's a lot more, Rick. I mean, we've got a lot of areas around here that need drainage support, but I don't know what the effect's gonna be from the DOT piece to it. It's gonna be like, you know, it's almost all off that, I would assume, but.
Been there since the road was built.
So.
But maybe it's
there's a
worse
maintenance-
now because of the increased rain and with all these intense storms, just like everything else you're having to deal with.
Once
It.
again,
If there's a drain, I don't know what the soil's like, but we'll keep 35 in there, small capital to look at what possibly can be done if nothing, you know, if it's too expensive to do anything. But at least we'll give them
the park was built, all that water went in.
exactly, right on that ledge, you know.
All around it.
It takes its own level, I understand. So, right.
The motion.
Motion.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Barbara, did you hear that? Or we were gonna kick that 35? Yeah, she's got it. Let's see, move that 60 back in there. All right, so part of the philosophy of the guideline, which is what we agreed to kind of try to go with, is the 15%. If we go on that year's budget proposed, we're actually over 15%. If we look at across the 5 years, we're right at 15 or a little under.
Okay.
So I think we're well within the spirit of the guidelines, which again is only guidelines. I don't know if you wanted to entertain. I'm okay. I believe we're okay with what we have done so far, given the
I
opportunity.
just want to clarify,
Yeah, go ahead,
the 35 was for the trails. The
What was the drainage?
25 was paving and drainage.
I'm sorry.
And that
Oh,
25
sorry.
was also part of the other 25 that's in there.
It's there now for next year.
No,
Oh, so it's
see,
2 years
here.
ahead.
For 2 years. I mean not next year, but I'm sorry if I just missed that. I'm sorry. All right.
So
Then,
originally, that first 25 was 50, and that got split into two pieces. Then it got kicked out another year, got added to the 35 for trails, and then.
I see. So
December,
the
you
25.
got- So you want this to be 25, right?
Yeah, I kicked it right 35 back. Oh, you're right.
Okay. Okay,
All right. I make another motion to rescind my previous motion to correct the numbers to read 25 over the line and 29 versus 35. Back over the line. Second. Okay. Any more discussion on it? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Motion carries. Okay.
I wonder, while we're still talking about capital, I think it would be helpful to have some kind of a narrative or some kind of a presentation at the annual town meeting.
I agree.
And really encourage people to come out and, you know, learn
I
about it,
agree.
you know?
Yeah.
Learn about this, why are we spending $400,000 on a truck, you know?
No, I totally agree. I learned that at the school when we had flipped up and everything was listed.
Yeah.
And that's what our departments are going to be doing for the department budgets. We've already talked about that. I've asked Barbara to include that. And we did that. We sent it to all the departments so that each line has a descriptor to it.
Right.
Not just on the columns like here, but, you know, where we can actually talk to it. And I agree, the presentation last year, we kind of didn't. Most of the years, everybody has to stand up and present and use that guideline to understand. And the education process of what our town, when you're going to vote, what it means. That's something we do. And I know that GTD, Kent Inc. did that a little bit for our municipal election in November, but we certainly need to do that as well. And use every possible
Because I
forum
think,
to educate.
I think if, let's say, you know, we get 50 young families, parents come to our meeting and they say, we really want that basketball court in there. I think that's what the whole, feedback thing should all be about with presenting this so early. And people should know that they're welcome and encouraged to come to that meeting and talk about the capital plan. What do they want to see for the next, for
Right,
that
yeah,
fifth
it's everybody.
year in our plan? And
I mean, we've had meetings where it was 13 people vote on the budget. Remember that?
I know, and then a lot of times this annual meeting doesn't have a lot of people come and talk,
We know you're not voting on it, so.
Yeah, well, I know, but I mean,
It can
it's.
still change between now and
And it
then.
can and it probably will, but at least if you are concerned about something, you should come and make your voice heard.
Right. Okay.
So do we want to vote on the total then?
Okay. You got all updated, Barbara?
Yep.
Okay. Can we see that bottom line? Or
The
2987?
the
2987
5-year
total.
total is 8,691,176.
Okay,
The 5-year
the
total.
5-year total, right.
I don't know, can you see it? I'm trying to make it big.
Yeah, we can. No, it's getting better. I can actually see it here now. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
So I make a motion that what is the right wording? Is it that we
That we recommend to the board. of Selectmen.
recommend to the Board of
Finance, I
Finance
mean.
this 5-year plan as dated 12/27 with a 5-year total of 8,691,176.
Right? 8 million next week.
That's my motion.
Okay,
It's a good motion.
the correct motion.
If it's
Yeah,
correct,
that'll work. Yeah.
Okay,
if it's correct, I'll second that.
okay,
All right.
all right. Any other further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Accept the motion as great. All three unanimous. Pass forward. Okay. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Barbara.
All right. Selectmen's report now, 10. So one of the things, just guidelines like select report, I know you had this with House Task Force, you've got your eyeballs, you probably told that. But I guess we have to look at exactly what else we as the selectmen need to do to get involved in actually the reports. One of the things programmatically I'd like to do is actually have a written, even if it's an outline of what you're going to talk about, what the report is going to be, so we can submit it into the record, instead of trying to capture it off of verbal or even off the recording. So what we did in other areas is like a 3-day before the meeting, submit an update to your report to Joyce, to the admin, Board of Selectmen admin, and then we can include that with the information. Does that sound reasonable?
What about if we said 48 hours before a meeting? Because I really think everything should be done in 48 hours. Because even I understand that Barbara's working incredibly hard. But I missed that. I missed that email and it wasn't in the folder. Because it came yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
So if we're consistent about all the stuff we're gonna talk about is 48 hours in advance, does that make sense?
Well, but we do the option, at a regular meeting to add things right at the end. That's the catch.
But it's hard if you don't have the backup stuff where you expect, you're gonna know what's going on. But Glenn and I are not gonna know. And sometimes the clue is that it's in the backup information is in the folder.
Yeah, we try to make sure that's all in there, but again, but if we do any kind of requirements, 48, All we're doing is selectmen, now, basically for the selectmen piece, now you're talking about overall, I'm talking about the selectmen specifically. If you're reporting on the task force up to date, report, no report, they didn't meet this month, whatever. Or Park and Rec, hiring a new commission or, new programs to know, whatever. That could be put in like 3 days before, right? I mean, because the meeting of the commission is going to occur before, 3 days before our meeting. A regular meeting. I don't think selectmen reports should be in regular meetings anyway. A special meeting should be we should keep to, the focus as much as we can. Now, add to things like we did with the farm thing. That needs to be done here fairly quick so we can get that in. So that stuff like that is fine, but I think.
I don't mind writing a written report, did that the first year, my first term, and then way, but it's something I did.
But what do you think about how far in advance is a good time to get it in? I mean, if you're busy doing things and
I mean,
I need to slip, I guess.
I mean, 48 hours was what we did before. It was.
Tried.
Yeah, right. And all of a sudden,
I got mine in, but so I mean, it worked for me. I don't know if it worked for the other two, but.
Okay, well, 48 hours is a reasonable time. It worked before.
I mean, my reports were very short, so.
Yeah, right, and it should
read them in a minute.
Yeah, and again, if it's an outline what you want to talk about, that's fine too. But as long as we have the outline, so we know what the.
Yeah, they were always very short. Yeah, so.
We do that. Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to make regarding that was to make sure that they're regular meetings, that we don't have to, and we don't try to shove things in at the last minute on a special. But anyway, do you all have anything that you would like to talk about on the report at this point?
I only have a question. The other update, if you have any, is what the Connecticut DOT and how they were going to lower the miles per hour speed limit.
Yeah, I haven't heard when they're actually going to do it, but they have approved it. I think it's waiting. Rick, have you heard from them? Yeah, I heard from Chris, but I don't know how it is. But they're planning to do it. There's a few other things that we're going to talk to about as well.
Okay, great.
Just on that, the handicap parking that's right in front of the fire hydrant, that kind of drove me bananas. So we're going to talk about that. And I think there are some, Rick was describing that, regarding we could make some adjustments with them. So we're going to try to work that too. So we can have a handicap and we can have a fire hydrant on top of each other. And I guess actually you said there's 2 additional handicap spots that were.
They could talk about that. I don't know if King ever came up with filed with anybody where they would be.
Yeah, but that's the other part. We'll work with DOT for that. But at least have one that isn't going to cause people to, and then position the sign. I mean, just to update that, put it in the middle of the sidewalk or on somebody's property. I guess there's some right away, but nobody wants to put a sign on somebody's property, especially in front of Harry Gallery. We've got such a nice little garden.
Where it's positioned now, nobody's going to see it.
Well, exactly. Well, we also talked about putting the handicap symbol on the ground.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Yes.
So that at least, without, wintertime being covered, these people start seeing that, maybe avoid it right now. Yeah, it was kind of crazy during the busy times to watch SUVs pull up there and block everything. Anyway, but so that's as far as so we'll let you know as soon as we hear about that for sure.
I had a couple things. Thank you so much I'm assuming it was your crew that painted the painted those speed bumps behind the pharmacy.
My crew, but we're paying.
Well, yeah, that was our contract. But they were doing all that.
Because that was something that people were talking to me about, that people had tripped on them because they weren't well marked and.
We have a suit, or a insurance claim right now about that.
Do we?
That happened at Thanksgiving, yeah. But I think people have them all the time. I mean, it's, people trip over the sidewalk or whatever.
But I even tripped over it, after somebody had told me because I just wasn't being careful enough. And I think the yellow stripe difference.
No, it's great. I'll tell you, part of the issue is that we don't own that whole street. We only own a piece of it. Some of it is privately owned. We didn't put speed bumps in, right? We don't do that.
Bought some property.
It's part of the parking areas, all that are along there are, I guess, owned by or managed anyway by the station, whoever the landlord actually, I think it's Peter, but so when that was put in, that was put a long time ago. So and now that we have the collection has their pull in, they own part of that pull in, so they own the integration to that street. So we're trying to figure out exactly what we control, but make sure that it's taken
We
care
own
of.
half of the one in front of the Welcome Center. The rest of it works somebody else.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we're trying to map that out. We gotta figure that out, so, yeah. Nice.
So a couple more things. Broadband, I had mentioned this to you, Marty. I was able to attend a forum by Connecticut Deep. There's lots of federal money that's coming, but I really think we need to reform the broadband committee. As I indicated to you, I'd love to serve on that committee. So I hope we could maybe talk about that in an upcoming meeting. The other thing I wanted to bring up is somebody, a Kent resident, approached me with an offer to donate her space at the Kent Town Center to the town. But she'd want the town to pay the monthly condo maintenance fees. This is the space that was recently used by a group of local artists as a pop-up space for an art gallery. And I'd be happy to share the contact information with you, but I figured that is not something I could handle as third selectman, but I did take her name and contact
And that's
information.
the one that Land Trust was using?
No, this is one upstairs.
Oh, upstairs, oh.
Yeah, there was a group of artists, like 4 or 5 of them that got together and did a little gallery show.
Okay.
The other thing is, a couple of people have approached me asking why the town ordinances are not available online. So I'm wondering if we could just sort of talk about the pros and cons about,
Should be.
I actually looked up the state lists what towns have ordinances online. We're one of the ones that don't, but I mean, there's obviously probably pros and cons to whether or not it should be out there, but I think it would be handy for people to be able to look up the ordinance.
Do the majority of towns have them, or?
Majority, yes.
Majority, yes.
Majority, yes.
Part of what the whole issue, well, all right, so, go ahead, I'll let you finish it. I think-
That was all I wanted to talk
All right,
about.
so the whole idea of and Jean did a lot of research on a lot of stuff. I've been piling through up to like 30 emails a day or organizations that she kind of like, oh, this would be interesting to find out more about, their broadband or new website or new infrastructure, new cybersecurity program. And it really got overwhelming to the point that I'm sending probably her 3 emails a day. Who's this? What's this? I don't get you in the background, digging through the files to see what I can find out. So part of that is how we put more online, how we actually make things more accessible and transparent, which is what we all really want. Is people should know what our rules, regulations are, policies, and so on. And they should be able to look that up. So part of it is we have a very difficult time here in the building to upload information out of here. So people wanted to come in and look at it, but to actually get to it, to do the search engine and so on, very poor. So I went in and I think the Selectmen had decided or Gina decided to do a contract with the CEN, Connecticut Educational Network, UConn, which does almost every school and town hall. They put a fiber system inside to provide the internet service for it, upload your upload and download speeds to almost gig speed levels. And so they make this the hub for, town hall would be the hub for that. So I went and called the organization, CEN in Hartford, got the woman on, she's walking by the desk that I called, whoever was putting, and she is the one, Wendy, I get Wendy's name anyway. She said, oh, yeah. Thank you, Wendy Rigo. Yeah, she said, we waited. We had sent a contract to the town to Jean last July or whatever, and for whatever reason it didn't get done. So she said, we're ready to go. We're ready to go on last year's costs and all that.
Oh, my gosh.
So that day, by the time she got back from her holiday lunch, I had it filled out and sent back in. So we're going to have that. And it's part of our internet, so it's already part of our budget system. I don't think the difference is, we're still trying to figure out if there's any real differences per month. It's going to be really a minimal amount, but it will provide us the access to be able to set up Google Map or Google Docs, Google Maps, and all that kind of stuff here. So everything that we do can be covered online, which is really what we're going to do. And things like the taxation. But, when I yell at Barbara about taxes, it really would be go to Debbie. But she probably has problems, processing checks and things. People send in.
I remember the assessor was talking about that last year, how tough that was.
Exactly. And so, and when I went through and met with every department head, almost number 1 or number 2 with IT was the ability to get out. So when we found this was a logical solution, I called a couple of the other, selectmen, so what do you think? And you're like, yeah, that's the way to do it. So we went ahead and said, let's get this done. So we're gonna do that. So to that, where it's a step to go. And that's the broadband piece too, because, you know, Ken Cooper, I ran into him and I know he'd been on the broadband committee before. And he's like, I just kind of petered out. It's still there on the books. Nobody has like dissolved it or whatever. So all we have to do is reconstitute it. So that is.
Well, I think we need some new members on there.
Well, I do. We
Yeah,
reconstitute
yeah.
the committee, but how we
Yeah.
choose the board, yeah, we'll get it on. And I have no issue with that. You have to do that. I'm happy to do that. I think, have you worked that? I'm happy to look at the fire department. If they're looking for someone to do that, I can maybe meet with them.
Yeah,
That'd be fine.
they did reach out to me and I really said, I think it's better for Marty to be on that liaison
Yeah.
rather than me, because you need to understand how they work. And I think with
Does
this
anybody?
EMS staffing stuff.
Oh, the EMS, yeah, well,
You
yeah,
gotta-
I followed that very closely when I was
Yeah.
on the school board, because we, you know, I know how we're now going hybrid, in a lot of cases, and actually more towards, you know, having to pay as you go. I mean, just the immense amount, including what we're doing, you know, with High Watch and whatever might happen, if, you know, with the town itself as an aging population, I know that, you know, my own mother-in-law, they say,
But they really do,
Yeah, sure, yeah,
and they really want somebody from the Board of Finance interacting with them
We'll see
as
what
well.
we
And
can.
the Board of Finance, basically,
Yeah, Blue
everybody said, no, don't want to do it. But they really need somebody on.
I agree. It's, you know, as we heard extensively from Alan, there's a lot going on, a lot of costs associated, and the growth in, you know, I mean, all the equipment they do, everything they're going towards, a lot of it's computer-based, or a lot of it's management-based. Excuse me, we know supply chain issues, we have developmental issues, we have the computer issues, we have just manufacturing issues, parts, you know, and supply. It's just crazy. So, yeah, it happens with vehicles and it happens with everything. So, okay. All right, so we're gonna resurrect, let's put that with the broadband committee, and we'll reach out and so since it's already a committee, what I will do is I will put out a notice of intent and interest for broadband.
There you go.
How's that?
Cool.
All right, we'll do that.
Any volunteers?
Yeah, exactly. And we've got a lot of volunteers, obviously, so, but we'll do that and see if we can.
Excellent. And what about the sound in this room?
Ah.
Because I have had a lot, and I know Glenn's had too. People are complaining because we've gone hybrid and they can't understand us in the
It's so sick right
recordings.
here that caused the problem we had back, Wash, got side loading back and all your stuff. So we've actually had Yucatec in here once already. They're coming back again tomorrow, right? Thursday or next Thursday? Joyce, when are they coming back again?
Next Wednesday.
Wednesday. So it'll be laughing at me. My days are all, it's just today. Every day is today. Next Wednesday, they're coming back to give an update with the Logitech people that actually put this all in to see what we can do to modify this so we don't have to be looking this way for cameras, to see if we can get, there's a lot of different stuff these are fairly rigid systems, but there are always addendums and add-ons to, you know, be created. So, and even if we end up financially having to take the hit at some point to redo it all, we can still repurpose this to where you were upstairs. We could put another screen upstairs. You know, this one would probably work, or something similar. And there's trade-ins and trade-offs, but you like new vehicles and so on that we can do. But this is not a optimum setup. And so we've asked Yucatec, and we asked another company to take a look at it, and they didn't really want to even touch it.
Oh.
Because actually, well, they're small. They were not prepared. They would have to have a contract with another company. So Yucatec actually works with Logitech to build this. They help build this. So we'll go with that and see what they have to do. And from there, we'll either, rebid it out or have another, give a proposal RFP to see what else somebody could do to improve the whole thing. The big thing is it just echoes like crazy. Beautiful, but
Yeah, the biggest thing is.
I still wonder if you had microphones in front of us,
Absolutely.
wouldn't that make it better?
The issue is with wireless mics, and it doesn't work on this system, wireless mics, which is what we want to do. We could actually channel a series of mic drop-ins through here and actually plug-ins like they do with the electrical plug over here. That I've seen that done before. But that's what we're going to get and find out. So you're absolutely right. We're going to fix it. We're going to work this. This is an issue. It's not right. You have a computer on where you inadvertently have your speakers on and up. That cross blows out. When we were listening to our last meeting, there was so much noise behind it I couldn't even hear me speak. Of course, I still have my prosthesis, but other than that, without slurring my words, it was difficult to hear the conversation, and it was reverberation of, feedback, like their microphone was ridiculous. So we're going to work on that one.
The biggest thing is the sound. I mean, some people don't mind watching back of their head as I'm looking this way or whatever, you're going back and forth like this. But it's just the sound, if people can hear what we're doing.
We looked at, other mics and systems, but these are not the right mics for this room right off the bat. So you're right. I like
I'm
that.
glad you're moving forward.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Joyce has been a big help on that, so. Okay. Anything else on selectmen reports? Anything else? All right, let's go to a bit more discussion of possible action on the Park and Rec MOU. So,
The Park and Rec Commission agreed this evening to support it. So it just wanted to highlight the reasoning why it says, it's a Park and Rec program aid. We didn't want to create a new position. We just wanted to use it as a way to get us through this interim period of not having a permanent director. So Jared has agreed to give us a small amount of hours, and he told me that within the online time card system, there is a way for him to put a message in and say what he worked on that particular week. And so I will ask Barbara if there's a way that I can see that, to be able to just view that. Because he told me he can view that for other part-timers. As the director, he's been able to.
In order for that to work, I just need to set you up as the director or the authorized person for the Park and Rec people, and then send you a link, and then you download it to your either phone or your laptop or wherever you're going to view it from, and then you sign in and you authorize the time cards.
Okay. So we're going to have another, they didn't want to vote on who should be the next chairman. So we're going to have another meeting next week. So I probably should wait and do that after. It should be the chairman.
The chair, or
unless you tell me that it's the selectmen, I should do it or something, but I think it's probably. Yeah.
And they can designate you to do that, as she said. So
that's true.
But you do really need a chair.
Right. So I did offer myself as the chairman, but Rufus is also interested in being chairman, so we need to have a little election. And they felt like we were rushing it tonight. So, but anyway, the idea is that there will be some accountability, and so that's good. And the other, I think, what was the other thing?
So the piece here on the second page is what you said, summary tasks and so on. Did they keep that in, Park and Rec Commissioner and or Selectman Lisa? They keep that in?
Yeah, we did approve it as presented.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess I'll just make sure that they delegate me as the person to deal with that.
Yeah, if they haven't selected a commission.
Yeah.
Too. I mean, they can do that next week.
Okay.
The only question I had, and I think I mentioned this before, is I know Jared's in a new job, and I know he's probably engaged quite a bit with that. I just want to make sure that again, for transparency and so on, that he and whoever he works for down there understands that we've asked him to be an advisor to us. I think it's a good idea to just contact his department down there, whoever it is, and just say, hey, just to let you know, Jared was here for a while. We're going through a commission change, a director change. Jared's agreed to do that, and have him say, great, we think it's a great idea.
It's not appropriate.
It's not appropriate?
It's not appropriate for us to do that with his employer. It's his job to do that. It's not appropriate for us.
I think it's absolutely appropriate for us to do that.
No, it is not.
Really?
So have you ever had two jobs?
Absolutely. No.
I've had two jobs at the same time. It was my responsibility to go to South Kent School and tell them I was doing a part-time job. It wasn't my part-time employer's job responsibility to talk to South Kent School. It was my job. I was the employee. And I,
Okay, but I've also seen where employees hasn't done that. Not that he's doing that, please, I'm not saying that Jared would do that or hasn't done that. But I have worked in multiple organizations with multiple hats and coordinated between the two organizations to understand what the personnel that are supporting different programs were doing. And so they understood that. So they understood that he's agreed to give us some time and they support that and so on. That's just a courtesy between two towns in this area. Yeah, I don't see that's an issue.
I do. I don't think that's our role. I think that's his responsibility where he's working for two different.
When he was working with the second job, when he had a second, did he tell us who he was working with the second job? Did he say?
He told Mike.
He told Mike, okay.
He didn't make a big deal about it with the entire commission.
Okay. Well, okay. I came in at the end of it, so I let Mike decide that. Make sure he was, I asked for Mike was to make sure that whatever Mike wanted him to do as a commission, that he was doing. So, okay, but that's my one thought, but if you guys disagree, that's fine too.
I'm with Lynn.
Okay, all right, that was the only question. Okay, well then.
Does it matter that his name is not spelled correctly?
Did I spell it wrong?
It's
Oh.
a Canadian part-time, it's Jared.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
I know it's in, but Jared.
Thank you.
That's right.
I
Always.
never, I don't even spell my own name. Okay. Okay.
So there's accountability. That's the biggest, that's the biggest thing.
Absolutely.
There's accountability. We'll know how much he's working, how many hours he's working for
I'm
us.
sure he's gonna
We can track that.
have a lot of good information to pass on. Hopefully we'll get a good candidate and a good,
Yeah, hopefully they'll like it quickly.
Yeah. Give it a little bit of that. Appreciate that, so. Okay,
Do you want me to make the motion, or do you want to, you guys want to make the motion?
Make a motion.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve we'll hire Jared Kaczynski as outlined in this memo of understanding as a part-time program aide.
as I always said,
Do we need to?
at the rate of.
Oh, sorry, at the rate of, what is it?
28 or 29.2 per hour. For
29.42 for an average of 8 hours a week.
Second, that.
Okay. Correct motion, make sure. Financially.
It's fine.
Okay, all right. Okay, any more discussion?
What's the length of time again?
It's 2 months, but there is a clause that it could be extended by 30 days if both
Yeah, two
parties
extensions.
parties
February
agree.
29th, the last, second meeting last.
I see, okay.
Okay, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. It is passed.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Public comment, public? Do you have any comments? Or any other public, anyone else that might be online that would care?
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. Anybody here, anyone else?
Gave up on us.
Okay. All right, seeing none, I'll move to adjourn. So moved, motion adjourned. All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned at 6:52.
Thanks, public.
Thanks, Rick.